4 years after God of War exploded back onto our screens, Santa Monica Studios are here once again with the follow-up to end all follow-ups, or so diehard fans like myself hoped. God of War Ragnarök opens around 4 years after the events of the last game, which is sort of the first of the reboots, but also technically the 9th instalment if you include original games, PS Portable games, 2D scrollers, and mobile games from the noughties and early 2010s. After killing Baldur and kickstarting Fimbulwinter, the precursor to Ragnarök in Norse mythology, Kratos, his son Atreus, and the reanimated head of Mimir are living a seemingly quiet life. Well, quiet compared to their previous work. Suddenly their worst fears come true as they are paid a visit by the ultimate duo of Norse gods, Odin and Thor. But the two are not here for a fight. Well, they are, but also they're not. Instead, they wish to bargain for peace. From here, Kratos and Atreus must rally their allies and previous enemies as they attempt to prevent Ragnarök, whilst also protecting each other from the Norse pantheon. This will be a spoiler-free review. I'm only going to be using video from the first couple of hours or so of the game, plus speaking very carefully about specific elements of the game in order to help you choose whether or not you want to play it, but without ruining the surprises along the way. Where to begin? I guess in case you're in a rush, I should start by saying, holy shit, this is a good game. If that's all the encouragement you need, feel free to close YouTube and head to the PlayStation Store now. You won't be disappointed. I knew this game was going to be good, but this was exemplar. Every little detail was thought through in ways I didn't fully comprehend at first. The reason this review has taken me almost 4 weeks to make is because I had to take a few days after completing it to breathe and think. I literally fell asleep after finishing the game, thinking about the very last line before the fade to black and credits. It was that powerful. It's safe to say I was hyped for this game's arrival, whilst also trying to avoid spoilers and negative feedback on social media. I even prepared by using it as an excuse to buy a PS5, which is why I will not be able to eat for the next month. But I was also cautious before playing Ragnarök. God of War 2018 had been a huge influence in my gaming life, a subject I will be discussing more in depth in a later video, so if they didn't get it right, I was going to notice. Turns out, I didn't need to be worried. Santa Monica Studios had clearly listened to what their fans loved about the last game and improved on it vastly without whipping a dead horse. The world had been developed immensely and with care to the original lore they were working from. The first major note I made during my playthrough was regarding the way they managed sending you back to level 1 without damaging the story. Instead, you keep a lot of the techniques, but your resources and talents have waned due to Fimbulwinter. This is just a nice touch for continuity purposes because it always annoys me in sequels when you've done really well in the first game and you were really cool, and then suddenly for the second game you're just back to being useless kind of thing. They also had clearly sat round and discussed just what would the main characters have been up to in the last 4 years. This included the fact that Kratos can now read the runes, a nod to one particularly heartwarming scene in the 2018 game, and so the codex is from his point of view, which is both fascinating and funny at different times. They also included NPCs in this question of what had been going on for the last 4 years, and it felt like they'd actually been living lives whilst we'd been waiting to see them again. On top of this, the pacing of the game was relentless, but in a good way, never allowing you to grow bored or run out of elements such as exploration and character development. Even when you were taking on side missions or dicking about in different realms, you were always learning more about individuals, communities, and their history as you went. The way they raise tension or any other emotion is believable and incredibly immersive. I'm not a huge crier, but there was a moment barely 20 minutes into the game where I had to choke back sobs and I failed. They got me good. Another climactic moment literally made me gasp in shock because I was so invested in the story and I was just so taken aback by what happened. The only criticism I have is that you can't pet the dogs. 0 out of 10. The combat style has leveled up whilst also not being too different from before, and they have tweaked little elements such as the fact before, in the last game, if you kicked a chain you would automatically start climbing down it, whereas now you can just walk away from it. That one in particular pleased me a lot. Speaking of, he climbs on his own now. He's so grown up. The companion element has much more bearing on battles and gets really intuitive as the game progresses. There are points towards the end where I'd go into a battle and I'd really feel like I'd got this and was, pretty powerful. But don't worry, you'll still get your ass handed to you multiple times, particularly on the higher settings. The map is also much vaster, But they haven't gotten lazy and just used the world they had already created. Oh no. Instead, they have taken that world and hit it with a hammer. The best example is Midgard, where you can still wander the Lake of Nine, except the ice and snow have hidden and revealed different new areas. There are many side quests and places to explore that flesh out the lore, and also characters you met in the 2018 game. The 9 realms have also opened up, and you get to visit some truly stunning locations. Whereas in the God of War 2018, you mainly focused on Midgard, with Alfheim as maybe the next largest space, then smaller areas to explore in Niflheim and Muspelheim, etc. This time, each world you visit, bar a couple, are hugely open to exploration. The scenery is phenomenal and truly rewarding to investigate. There's even a moment when you think you've explored pretty much all of a realm, only for a huge new area to open up quite suddenly. Bear McCreary has once again managed to heighten this experience with a top 5 all-time soundtrack. Seriously stunning, with a couple of really impressive standalone pieces I have been listening to on replay since I finished the game. Hosier even makes an appearance for the end credit song, and I'm not mad about it. Normally I rail against famous people doing the last song on films and games, but this one is genuinely good. Ultimately, this is a fantastic game. It doesn't rehash any of the old plot and instead focuses on a new era. Atreus cum Loki is growing up and has a whole new set of challenges to work through with his somewhat overbearing father. The dialogue is full of touching moments, facepalm moments, endearing lines, and downright hilarious quips, particularly from everyone's favourite dwarves. The way they use mythology to weave the story together is inspiring, particularly after many years of pretty disappointing Marvel-esque slapdash sort of lore. This game is definitely worth delving into if you're a fan of the last one. Santa Monica Studios appear to be going from strength to strength, and I can't wait to see what they do next, be it in the realms of God of War or a new AAA endeavour. So I'll wrap up there and leave you with this thought. Each day, when you wake up, though things may be rough, at least your landlord isn't a giant anthropomorphic squirrel with a bit of an angry side.